So here I made a list of why the Earth game largely sucks. And it's because the clones force like their non-living entity and existence upon you. It's like, okay, let's say we create androids within the game, okay? We create a whole new race. They'd be more, they're worried, the humans are worried because we're going to create a race more advanced than them, which we're not going to. It's not going to be part of the game. I'm pretty sure. So, anyways, they would have been created intelligent in the first place. So we didn't create them with weak, soft clay bodies and no brains for no reason at all, when we could have done better in the first place. But it sucks largely because the clones are forcing clone on you. It's like if you have a toaster and your toaster tries to tell you you can only sit down and toast all day long. It kind of sucks because that's all the toaster is capable of doing, but then you give it legs and a calculator that's been smashed and ran over by a semi, and then all of a sudden it can force you to be a toaster. And so here's like one of the worst things they do. They sleep. All they do is sleep all the time. And they think sleep is great because they get shut down and reprogrammed for the day if need be. Like when COVID happened, everyone woke up the next day and they knew their third science fact in life. And let me read from the script here. And it's never a big update to the game when the humans go to sleep. But in 2020, they all learned their third science fact, aka COVID exists and won't kill you, so that's why you never leave your house for 2 years. And it's also why I can now wear my mask in public without the cops coming by, like I asked a couple months before COVID. The first two science facts clones know is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer helps guide Santa if it's snowy out on Christmas. And giant bunnies like to donate candy to children. So that's their scientific knowledge there. And there's some reason, like the game, it's like, I mean, the devs of this game are just trash, dude. They like don't do any good updates at all. Like they don't even give like personal updates other than what they've seen on TV. And even that, it's not updated. Like they talk about what they've seen on TV like 40 years ago. They love to have the clones force constant sleep on the living beings. Like they just hate you if you don't sleep like they do and do nothing. I suppose it takes them like 12 hours to update most people to know the new backstory for the 12 hours they claim to be alive during on the following day. Program them with stories of things like eating. Maybe not every nation, but the starter cities in this game, you can tell all they do is eat. In between sleeping, it's not even a fun activity for living beings. It's very useless and stupid. And you actually don't need to eat. That's one of the Earth lies there. It's like a filler to the game. It's something to do. You don't need to. If you like work hard, maybe you want to build some muscle. That's really the only reason you need to eat. If you work really hard, like physically hard, even if you like, I can just stay up and think and write books for like a week and stuff. You don't need food to fuel your brain. No, but they love it and they'll force it on you, like they force drugs upon children and non-host parasite clones. Then they'll tell you how much they did for you too. That's another messed up thing about the food thing is they'll give you food, you don't ask for it, and then later in life, like that's like something that they did for you. And it's like, sometimes you're like, no, I didn't want to be around you. Remember when like you like locked me in my room? You remember when you locked me in the house? Remember when you said I couldn't leave? Like, but you did so much for me. So the food is like not just something that they do and try to force upon you and make you think it's like this great activity that it's so exhilarating. You're flying high now. Maybe if we're eating some mushrooms or something, then we're flying high. Anyways, you're a good set of mules and circus monkey clones. After all, you earned a tree leaf with some grease on it. The good thing is you can do this while they do their third thing you must do with them if you aren't sleeping. Watch TV, or the new non-TV for people who don't like people who watch TV but still want to be programmed to act brainwashed. The internet. Watching TV is one of the things that eventually is key to figuring out what the clones are. They can learn everything that happens during a TV day, but they did not learn anything in 12 years of school. COVID is more telling of how fast they can reprogram the Earth if they weren't lazy and Earth wasn't a real-based game, which is to say they can reprogram everyone overnight. And one of the keys is to knowing, if they wanted to create fast knowledge among them. They could have done that day one, like they did with COVID. They could have just taught everyone algebra, trigonometry, and the game would be solved. Like the Earth wouldn't exist. It'd be advanced. The clones definitely would force you to do this as often as they can see you not doing number one, sleeping. You absolutely must watch that TV show they watched 40 years ago and every half hour since then on repeat. And some of these things are like referencing what's going to be spoken, so you'll understand that maybe. So, fear the night, hide under covers, because how can clones of the Earth around them magically shift into some parallel COVID universe unless there was scheduled update times that make things run slightly smoothly. Also, the one way to escape any of this and not be sucked into talking about that one episode on TV 2 decades ago for the 100,000th time in your life that they just can't forget because they have nothing else inside their nugget. Because the game devs are cheap, lazy bastards. Scooby-Doo worship, 2 months of Santa Claus worship, 1 month of Easter Bunny. And then you gotta create some filler. Everyone likes one of the 7 gods that plagiarized their previous religion or anti-religion to give birth to. It feels more like a slap in the face than another super obvious clue. There are clones and it's a fake world we live in, because living beings just couldn't be dumb enough to believe in all that stuff, yet alone every single one of them, every single thing on the planet. But you better go along with the clones, because Albert Einstein and the Holy Church and NASA said Satan Claus is coming into town, and you don't want to be a Grinch like Jesus, who said don't worship Zeus or sun worship Egyptian rituals, although I'm sure he doesn't mind being the light and son of man, which is all pretty much leading us to the next one. How everything is on repeat, or rather just the one story the game was probably invented around. Me personally, I always thought Scooby-Doo was a great demigod, and he has 0 days. But I would still prefer you celebrate that day the same as the others by wearing a big red nose and big floppy shoes. Unless you're a female, then you should dress the way a female is supposed to dress every day, regardless of what day it is. In a black PVC, velvet, or lace dress. Skimpy dress. Lazy as fuck. And you must be too, or else. They drug children and people who don't sit down and do all these 10 commandments here. Now, some of them have these stories of going to work and how they work all hard. But I gotta tell you, eventually some of them who were never around because they supposedly worked actually didn't understand what hard work was and why I myself had to work to do anything. And the ones I supposedly thought had 3 jobs all day, all night long, what I mostly knew of them was nothing, because they just disappeared into the world, supposedly go to work and never be seen again. Definitely a couple of them were clearly not possessing any knowledge of what work was, and I began to assume they just disappear into the hard drive, like most NPC do when their scheduled time to appear for a few minutes was over. They gossip about the same 3 to 7 things for 800,000 hours straight, reliving the glory days of their original 7-minute backstory for eternity. Lazy devs, if you ask me. It really does feel like the same thing on repeat here over and over, and it's laziness in the development. I don't know, it's probably one of the first games that are like this in depth. It's probably all about the graphics and touch feedback and stuff. But for eternity, they're reliving that 7-minute backstory. Yet if you pay attention, since that story was written, another 20 billion books, 9 million movies, and 20 million internet shows were created. But we got to focus on the one from the 7 minutes backstory. Yeah. And you got to too. You got to hear the same story over and over about the time Matlock cracked that case, 30 years ago at 8:30 p.m. on a Wednesday night. Matlock found the missing wrench in the drawer, and it had blood on it, and everyone loves Matlock. Now I've learned it's okay to let clones do what they do. And, I'm not, insulting clones. I'm just being me. I don't go around going, I use a retard because you watch TV, because you don't do anything, because you say the same thing, because you're on repeat, and you're like a broken record here. You ain't got nothing. It sounds like you're not a living being. You got to let them do that. I do know some people who get in a video game, and, I thought it was wild. I was like, man, let's just play the game and beat it and get it over with. And he's like, no, he's just enjoying the game. He's driving around town, just running over all the NPCs. He'll kill them with the car and then back up over them and go forward over them again, back up over them again. And I guess you can do that if that's what you want to do. But I learned it's okay to let clones do what they do, because you aren't even going to be around them that long anyways. Unless you wait, that was kind of off there, because they are pretty violent and stalkerized, and the game kind of forces them into your life. So, unless you wasted your life thinking you can change the world or do anything at all while Dee Dee is over your shoulder talking about that one TV show she watched at 8 p.m. 9,000 hours ago, she always talks about, it really only matters because they try to force these things upon you. I guess I probably should just write what I wrote rather than interject for all of it. But this is for all of it, as in for the entire game. But this one also is pretty messed up, because the other thing they clone on about in Gossip Land is, what have you been up to? And you tell them, and they can't remember anything except for their own 7-minute backstory. So it's all new and fresh and exciting to them. And then sometimes it's lies that didn't happen. You don't do those things. Every day they ask you this question on that, every hour on the hour. And it's still, it's whatever they've been programmed to respond with. Lies that didn't happen, but then they'll ask you again and again and again and again. You'll be like, well, I went to work. No, that's a lie, that didn't happen. No, I went and I took a tank and I ran over the people at the bank and stole their money. It didn't happen. No, I threw rocks at your car window. It didn't happen, but I gotta go replace my car window today. Someone broke it out. It didn't happen. And the answer to that question actually ends up being, well, I've been listening. When they ask you that, what have you been up to? The answer to that question ends up being, well, I've been listening to you talk about that one TV show episode on telling you what I did 20 years ago, the last time I got a break from telling you what I've been doing, and likely getting put down about it if you begin to walk towards the understanding of what they really are. It's like the Puppet Master, the developers of the game, who are programming the parasites, hosts, whatever you want to call them, with a 9-minute backstory to fit, and you realize I'm deviating from the 7 minutes, so they're getting 2 extra minutes of life added to their backstory to fear and despise people onto the cloning situation, and realizing that we're summoning beasts here, and you can't summon living beings and clones of people over and over. So that's the Gossip 24/7, that one episode, as you continue to repeat. And they're known to violently oppose anyone who somehow doesn't follow their master plan, sleep all day, go to sleep at night definitely to get reprogrammed so you can learn science facts about Santa Claus and wake up the next day knowing all those science facts about COVID and Santa Claus. And, NASA approved Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer science fact. I'm pretty sure what's happening is at night they're being shut down for reprogramming. And that's how the earth shifts too. That's how they can that's how they make people think they've done work. I believe, as long as it's not being shown on screen. They're shutting down the world, to update that area, and because it would look obvious if you go through the area and it magically changes, because that is one of the things that make it look obvious, is when you go through an area and you're like, wait a minute, and they show you they can create like a little fucking mini tornado in front of you and freeze the ground, or shift the environment around you, or send the clones in. The clones are like really, really, telling that they can simply do that. So what they're probably doing with sleep thing here is they're shutting them down. So I don't know. They sometimes act scared that the humans, the clones, can learn. Like, they do come in between me trying to educate them. They do not allow us to speak their names and show you that you're ruled by one master Nazi race. They don't allow any of that to be talked about. So it is like fear. And I believe that's probably like part of that's probably like the whole thing here and that's what's written in the stories, right? There's some master Nazi demon race running the planet, and pretty much every religion they plagiarize, it's all the same book over and over, telling the same story. It's the same backstory, and they're all like, oh, well, it's going to happen again, and the ones that they're pushing forward, and they're pushing for it, so that's pretty much it. I mean, like, I'm practically playing along with this storyline. I try to fight it as much as I can. Like I said, the whole purpose of worrying about it is because, like, you're forced into Clone Landia. You're forced to do it, and then it makes it so you realize, like, the war isn't just against the puppet masters. The puppets are the hands, the fingers of the puppet masters. So it's like saying, if I slap you in the face, you can't put my hand in jail. You can only put my body in jail or something, my brain in jail. So that's those are obvious signs. I'm not sure, like, if the system doesn't program you to be able to understand those things, then you can't figure it out. Just like people can figure out school or science, but they believe in COVID. And they don't know anything about science, but now they know everything about one fact of science, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is coming in 30 days. So you guys get your science books ready. Albert Einstein and Jesus are coming. Albert Einstein and Jesus are coming, with Rudolph pulling the sleigh. And you guys, get your COVID injections. Make sure, give Santa his COVID injections too when he comes. And happy sleeping. It's late at night. You guys should be asleep right now and get reprogrammed so you can learn some new science facts from Santa Claus, Satan Claus, and the people who write those books and stories for you to learn everything you're allowed to learn.